Somebody say something about Tommy Wildfire Rich coming to you live in Myrtle Beach. The waves are gusting and the breezes are blowing. Lord have mercy. Wrestler Weekly. Y'all better check this stuff out.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Wrestler Weekly Presents. I'm your host, Scottie Richardson.
And I'm Mike Leotis, and all things are new again.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2022, and wow, what a year that 21 had.
Yes, and we are looking forward to even more great content for you in the year 2022.
I mean, wrestling is as hot, Mike. I'm getting chills even thinking about it. Wrestling is back.
Yes.
It is hotter than it's ever been in a long time. I mean, we got to go back to the wars of the 90s, maybe. I don't know. But my goodness, I mean, AEW, WWE, MLW, NWA, Impact, AAA. I mean, in New Japan, it's just on and on and on. It's unbelievable. It's as hot as it's ever been, and we're just glad to see it and have that day of seeing it.
Absolutely, and we've lived through these times before. And you know, when we were growing up, wrestling also had a boom period. You know, and there's so many great things that we're going to look at. We're specifically going to look at the champions.
Yeah, the three champs. And back in my day, you know, I'm feeling the old man over here. But back in my day, we had three champions: NWA, WWWF, and AWA. And when you got the magazines, you got the ratings, you'd look and see and scan the top because, you know, Reggie and I were in the Mid-Atlantic territory, and then we moved to Florida in 1981. But still, you know, we had to really read the magazines to find out, okay, I know that, you know, everyone's after Nick's belt, and I keep seeing these covers with Wrestling Mill and Wrestling Dusty and even Belt for Belt with Bob Backlund. Or, you know, is Backlund finally going to lose?
Yeah.
You know, those were those articles when we would try to find out. We'd look at the ratings and see what the title changes were because we knew, and especially in the NWA, you know, oh man, Dusty won. Am I going to see a photo of Dusty and the 10 pounds of gold or Ric Flair? And so those were the big things for us. And again, who are we? We're Wrestler Weekly. Reggie, Mike, and myself. And so you can follow us at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Wrestler Weekly. Subscribe on YouTube. Articles on Medium. T-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. And pick up the book, Family Bacon Wrestling. And if you mail it to me, I'll sign it for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And so when I was born, Mike, back in the day, I'm going to be 50 this year.
There you go.
So I know I don't look it. But this is November of 73, but back in the 72, these were the champions. Briscoe, Gagne, Morales, and the magazine talks about a showdown for the century. But these were the three world champions back in my day.
Yes, and you know, you see the three different title belts. Again, we love belt covers here, and we're going to feature and actually show you some more about these particular championship belts.
Thank you, Hawk. I appreciate it. Yeah, a little glitch there, but we'll get through it. And so, yeah, I mean, we've got the belts today, we've got mags today, we've got signed things. It's the Happy New Year. And if you didn't get what you thought you wanted for Christmas, we're going to give you enough information and show you enough things you can spend all your money on.
Yeah.
All right. So these were the 3 world champions, and Pedro Morales, Vern Gagne, Jack Briscoe. And there's a great photo with myself with that Jack Briscoe belt and Jay-Z Graham. So you can check that out from a couple months ago. But so, Mike, 3 champions. Now, when you were coming up.
Yeah. So when I was coming up, it was the birth of Hulkamania.
Yeah.
So when I was born, Hulk Hogan had just toppled the Iron Sheik.
There you go.
And was the WWF heavyweight champion. In 1984, in the AWA, there was a little bit of a transition period. You had Jumbo Tsuruta defeat Nick Bockwinkel, an all-Japan wrestler. Terry Funk, the special referee in that match. In a tuxedo, by the way. But Nick Bockwinkel, Jumbo Tsuruta, and the great Rick Martel held that belt. And, of course, the NWA champions. We did an episode earlier on, 1984. We're talking Ric Flair and the late, great Kerry Von Erich.
Absolutely. And this is, now we're going to move you to 1977. And now all 3 of these have changed. And let's take a look at these 3 legends. Superstar Billy Graham is now the WWWF champion, defeating Bruno for that red leather belt. Nick Bockwinkel, the AWA champion now, and a different version of the title, as you can see from what Vern is holding. Very similar to the big gold. Matter of fact, Reggie and I thought that when the big gold came along, and we see, Ric Flair handed this big gold on TV, and we're watching it, back then, we thought, well, man, is that the AWA belt?
Yeah.
We didn't know. We thought maybe there was a switch there, and then Harley Race with the 10 pounds of gold, signed by all 3. And Mike, is this a good time to bring this out?
I would say so.
And so you see that Nick is holding. Bring that mag back, Mike. He's got there's a tan leather, and you can see in this beast of a belt. This thing is heavy as can be, but this is the tan leather. And I wanted to make sure I had the Nick belt. Nick was the only one that had the tan leather. And then I was able to get a couple autographs and attach it to the belt, as these 2 legends had passed. But that is Bobby the Brain Heenan, who was the manager for Nick Bockwinkel back then. And there's an autograph by Nick that I've attached to my belt. But this is the classic blue backing with the Velcro, Mike.
Well, and the thing about this belt is they made it large because they wanted their world championship to stand out. This was actually made in a prison, hence why it is called the inmate belt. But one of the interesting things about this, and why Bockwinkel was the only man to have the tan leather on this, was Bockwinkel did not like the tan leather.
No, he did not.
This piece is only on this front with the 2 plates.
Yep.
He ripped off the tan part, and hence we got the classic black leathered version of this belt.
Yep.
But a beautiful belt. Again, looks like a world championship.
Yep.
This is the same belt, not this one that he's holding here, that later Stan Hansen would run over and mail back to Vern Gagne.
That's right.
So a lot of history with this belt. Rick Martel held the AWA title, which we're going to get into a little bit later. But as you said, Nick Bockwinkel, the only man to hold the tan version.
Absolutely. And, beast of a belt for sure. And so, when you're talking about AWA champion, this is the belt that comes to mind. And Nick Bockwinkel, the champion, that comes to mind. Here's another classic cover. And now Bob Backlund is on the scene. He has defeated Superstar Billy Graham in 1978. And here is Nick Bockwinkel, Harley Race, and Bob Backlund. And as a kid, these were the ones that I remember the most. Billy Graham, and then on into Bob Backlund. But these are the 3 that really stood out the most for me and my brother as we would go through the mags, because these were the champions most of the time in the late 70s and early 80s.
And this was before, title belts just became a prop, something that was passed on just from person to person, not meaning as much. This is when the title meant everything. And you might think, well, how could there be 3 world champions? Well, there was 3 different, 3 different organizations. The NWA oversaw multiple territories, and the champion traveled from territory to territory. AWA mainly out of the Midwest,
Right.
but that was their top guy. They oversaw the Memphis territory. They oversaw Southwest Championship Wrestling, Houston Wrestling for a time, even Stampede. Nick had a match, and you can find this online. In 1982, defended the belt against a young Bret Hart at the Calgary Corral.
Right.
And then Bob Backlund, again, the WWWF was on its own, and they had their own world champion in Bob Backlund.
And let's bring that belt out.
Yeah.
So this is the replica Bob Backlund with the blue again that we showed you earlier, and this is signed by Bob Backlund. And Operation Bob Backlund was an episode that we did a couple years ago, which was fun. But this was only two people held this belt, and that was Billy Graham and Bob Backlund. And so to have this thing, and again a really good belt replica here, and the three champs, because again those were the three champions. And here is Harley Race, Nick Bockwinkel, and Bruno. We talk about three champions, but I want to throw this magazine out because these were all signed in one magazine, and just a collector's item.
Great photos, and again, how long Bruno was the champion. I mean, Bruno reigned in total for 11 years. Went from 63 to 71, and then again won the belt a few years after that and reigned until 1977.
Wow. Yeah, and here's a great one. This is my favorite Bob Backlund cover. A lot of people, when I used to post this when Wrestler Weekly first began, and we've been doing this 5 years now, Mike. We're headed to 6.
Yes.
In October, we'll have our 6-year anniversary, but in Friend Fest.
Yeah.
And so, but this is people, when I posted it, they're like, oh my goodness, Bob Backlund bled?
Yeah.
Like they just really have no clue of this man's career and the history of Bob Backlund. And, it's a shame that, when you get caught up into, Mr. Backlund and the bow tie wearing guy. But man, this guy could wrestle. He wrestled main events all over the place. He wrestled so many different guys that you can just go back and look at the feuds that he had, whether it was with Greg Valentine that we talked about at Christmas, or a couple episodes ago we said we went belt for belt with Canadian champ King Kong Masuka. I mean, all those different legends that he wrestled.
Well, and he wrestled Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
He wrestled Antonio Inoki in Japan. He even wrestled Dusty Rhodes
right.
in Japan.
Yep.
Backlund fought all comers. Had a match with the Sheik in Detroit.
Yep.
Wrestled Pat Patterson, Jimmy Snuka, even the Iron Sheik, who he defeated in an earlier feud in the late 70s. So, but again, this cover is significant because it has the two things that were very popular on wrestling magazines. That's blood and that's belts.
That's right.
Which is a nice segue into our next one.
Yeah, because the next of the three champions that I love the most is Nick Bockwinkel, and this is an autographed copy with the blood and the belt, and just tremendous. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that type of cover.
Well, and again, Nick Bockwinkel, you might say, oh, Bockwinkel bled, but he did. Bockwinkel had those great, elegant promos that him and Bobby Heenan would talk to all the humanoids out there.
That's right.
But Bockwinkel was as tough as they come. He was an athlete. For years, his father was a wrestler, came from a wrestling family. He was a football player at one point. So while Nick, dressed to the nines and spoke well and all those things, as tough as they come.
Yeah. How would you like to see a battle of on the mic with Nick Bockwinkel and MJF?
That would be a lot of fun. Even you talk about a promo battle between Bockwinkel and Ric Flair.
Oh my goodness!
They wrestled on the last AWA card ever in Winnipeg.
That's right.
The last regular card that they had there in Winnipeg, 1986. You can find a short clip of that match on YouTube.
Yeah, and these two guys wrestled.
Yes.
They went belt for belt. Bob Backlund went belt for belt with Harley Race a few different times. Went belt for belt versus Ric Flair.
Yes.
In the Omni.
Referee for that match, by the way, was Scrappy McGowan. And there's a great picture of Scrappy holding both belts. And I know that's one that he's particularly proud of.
Yeah, and here is double signed Harley with the belt and the blood. Harley and Bob Backlund has signed this one as well.
And again, just you see the collection and the themes here, how things all go together. And now Scottie's bringing in the 10 pounds of gold, one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic, world championship belt ever in pro wrestling.
Yeah, and this belt, move that WWF belt, but this particular belt, and I know there's many different Dome Globe replicas out there. This one has a lot of sentimental story to it. As Matty calls Matty Montcalm from Wrestling with Classics, a shout out for him and his old buddy Nick Sankey, my FanFest buddy. But this is the Carino belt, as Matty says. But this was a gift. When my wife and I were first married, she got me a gift, and she said, "I got you something." And so I walked in, and I saw on the shelf was the 10 pounds of gold. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a keeper.
Yeah.
And so that was in, I believe, 1999 or 2000, somewhere around in there. And so that this belt came out. I got it in 01. But Mike, you had a version of this belt as well.
I had a version. This is the Figures 8 version of the belt. And way back when, for you belt collectors out there, you might remember a man named Ed Schumann who worked closely with Reggie Parks and Dave Milliken and Rico Mann. And I had this version of the belt and looked into getting it re-leathered. Ed made me a generous deal. Ended up, not getting the re-leather, but was willing to put all the buttons and all those things. But it was a great conversation because he was a great guy, great to talk about belts. He knew the history of the belt. And again, just a beloved championship belt by somebody.
Yeah, and so this belt, way back when FanFest, Reggie and I started going to FanFest, so this became an autograph belt. And I'm glad it didn't have the buttons because it made it for opportunity for autographs. And so I used this as an autograph belt. And so I just want to show it to you, and I've shown it many times before, but I attached some figures or some autographs to the belt that were wrestlers that had passed. But there are wrestlers on here who signed it, and they have now passed, unfortunately. And so, but this is a very great piece in my collection. It's one of the most prized possessions that I have. This is Giant Baba attached to the belt. And right next to him, who is that, Mike?
Tommy Wildfire Rich.
And Tommy Wildfire Rich was the very first wrestler to sign this belt. And now I had to buy 2 T-shirts, but we got him to sign it.
Somebody say something about T-shirts?
Absolutely. And a couple episodes ago, I talked about Bobby Yates. Bobby is a great friend of mine. He does a lot of work behind the scenes for Mid-Atlantic Gateway with research and history. And but Bobby is a fellow North Carolinian like myself, and he has ran some shows in Asheboro. And he ran one a few years ago in a high school gym. And I was lucky enough to go in and meet Terry Funk.
Yes.
And I had a private signing with Terry Funk, and Terry signed this one, Hall of Fame 08, as you can see. And then right next to him is Ric Flair, 16-time champion. We move over. I'm going to grab that side there, Mike. Harley Race. And just happy that Harley was able to sign this belt. We move along here, and this is recent. A couple months ago, that autograph there is David Crockett.
Yes.
Now, you may ask, well, why would you put David Crockett on there? Well, when I was a kid, how many times did David Crockett interview the world's champion?
Yeah.
And so that's part of my childhood and my history there. And then with that being said, there's a couple other guys right in here that are from my childhood that is synonymous with interviews or things with the 10 pounds of gold. And that's Bill Apter and Bob Caudle.
Yes.
And so I was able to get Bob and David, the old partners when I was growing up, and then Bill Apter, who had many different things with the belt. And then how about this one, Tommy Young?
Yeah. Referee for many NWA World Championship matches.
So he, and I tell you, it made these guys feel special.
Yes.
That I would ask them to sign my belt with all these other legends, and it really, because they were a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as big a part of it as the wrestlers. They were the ones who made you feel. They were the ones who actually told the story of the story being told in the ring.
And right under here is also Nick Aldis.
Yes.
Nick Aldis, who was a great champion with the NWA World's Heavyweight title, held it for so many days and years, and just a great guy. This one is attached. It's Jack Briscoe.
Jack Briscoe, the great Jack Briscoe. First man to hold this version of the title, both the red one and the black leather. Jerry Briscoe has stated numerous times that Jack hated the red version, and so asked for a more basic black. and they did a wonderful job.
Yeah, and you can see here I had Nick sign it under Harley.
Yes.
Just for that connection.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good, and Nick was just so honored.
Yeah.
And was very appreciative and so honored that I would have him sign a belt like this, and then ask that he signed it under Harley.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. And then this is really the key, Dusty Rhodes.
Yes.
I was able to meet Dusty just a few short months before he passed at the NWA Legends Fan Fest in Charlotte, and Dusty signed the belt, and wow, I mean, to have Dusty and Harley on here just really brings even more sentimental. I really could care less about the actual monetary value, but it's a sentimental for me.
Agreed.
And then last but not least, attached to the belt, Kerry Von Erich. And I like the fact that Kerry and Jack have signed both these in ink pen. That's always a big thing in the old programs. And so I got Kerry, Jack, and Bye-Bye that are deceased, and then I've actually the rest of them have just been great. So I know I get asked a lot about, would I ever put Shane Douglas on it, and the answer is no.
Yeah. Throw that idea right down on the ground.
But thanks for playing.
Yeah.
So we'll keep it going, and this one's a one for Bobby Norton. A good shot with Dusty in the 10 pounds of gold.
Well, and again, Dusty, some short but memorable reigns with the 10 pounds of gold. And Dusty will be also, besides his victories, which if you've seen the clips of his 3 victories, I mean, the crowd just goes wild when he defeats Harley Race in Florida, defeats Race again in Georgia, and then once again defeats Ric Flair, Great American Bash, 1986, the Greensboro Coliseum. Dusty held the big gold in that time, but his first 2 runs as world champion were with the 10 pounds of gold, and he is the man who lost the title to Ric Flair to give Ric Flair his first reign as NWA champion. Referee for that match was Lou Thez.
That's right.
Great Lou Thez.
Absolutely. And you see Nick with the tan leather.
Yes.
That's always a good shot. Now, the next, we're going to jump into Japan and how they kind of viewed the 3 champions on their covers. This one is 78 USA Championship Wrestling Album from Japan by Backlund, Nick Bockwinkel, and Harley Race.
And take a look here. In the Japanese magazine, they have great photos in all the Japanese magazines. Just excellent photographs, lots of color pages, which was, not done here in the States a whole lot at that time. I don't think PWI or the other magazines had gone full color until about the late 90s. So these are real treasures. And these are expensive, these books. They're very much in demand. $80 to $100 a pop.
Absolutely.
And that's on the cheap side of things.
No doubt.
But some great covers. We have another one coming here with some different versions of the belt.
Yeah, now this one is signed by Bob Backlund and Harley Race. Shame that Nick has passed, but again, we're starting to get a little bit of a change.
Yes.
You can almost see it coming.
Yeah.
Because you have a change in the color of the title strap, the lavender, which a lot of people don't know that Ken Patera, there's a shot of him with the lavender holding above his head. He didn't win it, but he should have. And then Antonio Inoki did win it.
Yes.
And so that's a great shot. But then you can almost see, Harley's looking a little older.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger. It's a little bit of a changing of a guard coming. You can almost sense it.
Yeah. And this was, again, this was kind of the last hurrah for some of these guys. Bockwinkel would have another world title reign later on in the 80s. But again, different belt a few years later. And again, was a changing of the guard when he passed the belt on to Kurt Hennig.
Yep. So a newer Japanese belt. And now we see that the change has come.
The change has come. And you see here, Nick Bockwinkel still the champion.
Yep.
But new NWA champion, Ric Flair. Flair was in his second reign as world champion here. And then Hulk Hogan, who had been an AWA staple, had chased Nick Bockwinkel down for his championship, appeared to have won it on a couple occasions. The decisions were overturned. And here's Hulk with a favorite of mine, the big green belt from 82 to 84. Hulk, obviously, we know, won it January 23rd, 84 from the Iron Sheik. And this is cool because there are quite a few big green photos out there, but that belt, Hogan held that belt for a mere matter of months before a new belt was made. So really, really classic photo.
Yeah, and you can see the changing of the guard is just going to rise now between these two champions. They're going to really take wrestling to another level. And the AWA ends up kind of staying around, but you can see it coming visually, and that's what I like about the magazines.
Yeah, you see the change over time.
Now, this last Japanese, I wanted to show this one just because it's rare, and I love it in my collection. Never thought I would have, I never thought that this would even exist, but to have a cover shot of Jumbo Tsuruta with the AWA title is just phenomenal.
So we mentioned the Jumbo Tsuruta title change earlier on in this episode, and you have Jumbo with the inmate belt, the big silver AWA belt, Giant Baba with the PWF Heavyweight Championship belt, and Tenaru with the NWA United National Championship, which those two belts that we just mentioned, besides the AWA one, became part of the Triple Crown Championship for All Japan Pro Wrestling. Triple Crown still exists. It's no longer 3 belts. It's one belt that signifies a plate for each of the belts. The third belt was the NWA International Championship. And so, but this is a great cover. It's rare. Tsuruta did not reign long as AWA champion, but he would lose it to Ric Martel.
That's right.
And we showed some Ric Martel earlier on in some episodes here the last few months of Ric Martel's reign with the AWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, and let's talk just briefly. You've got Otto Wanz.
Yes.
That was in that mix as well, and during that time frame in the 80s. And you're looking at, NWA, Ric Flair, a couple different times where Puerto Rico or whatever, Jack Vino. And so you've got a couple different reigns in there, the Inoki situation. So a lot of those were plugged in, but can you imagine a cover with a 3-shot with Otto?
Yeah. and a lot of times, you have to remember champions worked all across the globe. So Otto Wanz came over from Austria, CWA, where a lot of guys had successful runs. Vader was there in his early career, Andre the Giant, Sergeant Slaughter, so many guys. But Otto came in. It was done as a favor to Otto. And he went over Nick, and Nick beat him for it back shortly later. But it was a big deal. And there was even some magazine covers that covered it at the time. And so, but again, Flair had a couple of runs, like we mentioned the Kerry Von Erich run, and some of the other unrecognized runs, Jack Veneno in Dominican and others.
So what do you think about this one now? This is right in the middle of the heyday. This is 80s personified here.
And you see Hogan with the smaller belt, similar to the NWA Television Championship. That was a very popular belt design. National Championship had that design, among others. You see Ric Flair still with the 10 pounds of gold riding high in 1985.
3-time in a row PWI Wrestler of the Year.
Yes, he was. And here we have some new blood. Stan the Lariat Hansen coming in he defeats Ric Martel by submission with the Brazos Valley Backbreaker, otherwise known as a Boston Crab, in my home state of New Jersey at the Meadowlands. And so Stan Hansen becomes the AWA World Champion. It's done through a deal with Giant Baba in All Japan. They want an All Japan wrestler and you got to remember, Hansen did not like as much wrestling in the States. He wanted to go to Japan. And so to be the world champion in the States was a big deal at the time because he was so focused on Japan. Story goes that Hansen was going to be defending the belt on a All Japan tour in late 1986. Vern Gagne says, nope, you're dropping the belt to Nick. And he says, not until after my tour. Vern says no. Hansen walks out of the arena with the belt. The belt is awarded, or the title at that time, awarded to Bockwinkel. But here we see the demise of the inmate belt. Stan Hansen did some cosmetic work on the belt. Might have run over it with his tractor quite a few times. And then mailed it back to Vern. And hence we saw a changing of the belts back to a different version of the AWA title. But Stan Hansen, last man to officially hold the inmate belt.
I asked Stan once at a fan fest in WrestleCon in Orlando. David Peck was with me as well. And I said, did you actually run over the belts? Yeah. He said, absolutely.
Yeah.
No holding back there. All right, so this is the last magazine, Championship Wrestling Gold Power, October of '89, and really the last time that you would see 3 champions, because so many other things were happening in other organizations, and you had World Class unifying with AWA there with Lawler and Von Erich, and all those are happening there. And but this is really the last with the Winged Eagle, and the Big Gold, and then Larry Zbyszko.
And so a fun story about this cover. Obviously, the Winged Eagle and the Big Gold, 2 of the most popular belt designs ever. Yeah. Ric Flair actually held both of these. Hulk Hogan held both of these. Right. Bret Hart and a couple other guys had held both versions.
You have a Big
Randy
Gold.
Savage. I have a Big
Reggie
Gold.
has a Winged Eagle.
Exactly.
I guess I'm going to have to figure out how to get to Larry Zbyszko.
Exactly. So this photo of Larry Zbyszko is interesting. You see he has his hand over the belt. You can't really see the main plate of the belt. Reason being, that is not the AWA World Championship, but it's supposed to be. So Jerry Lawler has a falling out with Vern Gagne. Vern says, I'm stripping you of the title. You're no longer the champion. You see there's a pattern here. Jerry Lawler says, fine, but I'm keeping the belt. You want it? Come and get it. Vern says, no, they hold a battle royal. Larry Zbyszko wins the battle royal, and he is awarded the AWA World Heavyweight title. But as the belt, because they needed a belt to give him, they gave him the short-lived AWA International Television title, and he covered it up and held it as a prop just to show that he was the champion. But if you look close there, and if you're familiar, Google it, the AWA International Television belt used here as the AWA World Heavyweight Championship.
That's fantastic. But so we hope you've enjoyed the rundown with the 3 champions here at the Happy New Year Day, New Year's Day 2022, and we hope you have enjoyed our time together. And for Wrestler Weekly Presents, that's going to be a wrap for us. We've got a great season 6 with our 8 episodes, and then we did the Christmas special. So if you have not seen that, go back and check it out on Greg the Hammer Valentine, and then our New Year's special today. But Mike, we've had fun.
It's been a lot of fun. We're off to a brand new year. We did a lot of great content in 2021. We have more coming your way in 2022. And reach out to us if there's a topic, something you'd like to see us cover here, some of your favorite classic wrestling. Send it on over to us. We'll see what we have in the collection, see what we have in the vault, the man cave, right. And we will be happy to discuss the wrestling that means something to you.
Yeah, and so in 2022, if you want to get more information on us, Reggie and myself and Mike, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Wrestler Weekly, T-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. The book, Family Bacon Wrestling, you can check it out on Amazon. I'm working on more books, Mike.
Yes.
2022 might be the release of the main book. Well, we shall see.
We are excited.
Super
if you like belts.
Wrestling. That's right. And so, but yeah, we've enjoyed it. It's been an awesome Wrestler Weekly Presents season, and with our specials. And now Mike will take it from here for this 2022 Wrestler Weekly Conversations. Many great guests he's going to have in the finishing up the winter and into the spring. And then in the summer, Making the Case is going to be new for you. We hope that you will enjoy that. And then we'll get ready for Season 7 in our 6-year anniversary in the fall of this season and this year. And so, fans, we appreciate it. We thank you so much. Until next time, so long for now.